this is a little different, isn't it, to what I normally post? But guys, I couldn't help myself. Being at Disneyland Paris just brought it all back to my childhood. But I wasn't really big into Disney. I was into video games and Batman and lots of animated TV shows and movies. But I just didn't have that appreciation for Disney when I was a kid. But now that I'm much older, knowing all the work that's involved and all the creativity, it's just something that I appreciate a hell of a lot more. So today, I'm presenting Decky's Top 10 Disney Films.
You know, I haven't been this choked up since I got a hunk of moussaka caught in my throat. Huh? So is this an audience or a mosaic?
So to start off my list, I thought I'd go with something a little different. Hercules, one of the last Disney movies I can remember watching growing up. This one and Mulan. They were part of the Renaissance era, and that was from 89 to 99. That's when Disney started to make more musical numbers, and they were based on well-known stories. And so this one doesn't get as much appreciation. I really liked it. I liked the fact they went with something different with the music. And this story is based off the Latin version of Hercules and not the Greek version, and that's something I didn't know. A great story with some likeable characters, and you've got some great voice actors here, James Woods and Danny DeVito, with a very soulful soundtrack that's very catchy, and it's just one of those classics that just doesn't get as much appreciation. So here it is on my top 10 Hercules. You're picking your top 10, it's very difficult. It was a toss-up between this and WALL-E, but I thought Up had a lot more to offer. It's certainly a comedic film, but it has a lot of dark moments, and especially in those first 20 minutes. It's a very imaginative movie, and I feel like it appeals more to adults sometimes, especially with certain themes to do with like regret and what you do with your life after you think you've lived it all. And I especially like how the kid tries to bridge that generation gap and creating an unlikely friendship in the process. So I think it's unquestionably an uplifting story, pun intended. See, it's hard to remember if it was this or Amadeus was the first movie I ever watched. It's hard to tell, but it was always on. This and Father Ted. If you're from Ireland, these are things that you love. But fuck, I didn't love watching The Banshee, you can tell you that much. Certainly hid behind a sofa as a young lad, me and Connor, because that was frightening when you're that age. And the deaf coach as well, equally fucking frightening. Just a side note, when Walt Disney came to the premiere for this movie in Dublin, back in 59 I think it was, he went out of his way to get all the sick kids from the hospitals and orphanages and let them watch the movie for free, so no one escaped. It's my favourite live action Disney movie for its quotes, the Irish folklore,
You've done grand.
and just all the crack in between. Darby O'Gill is a delightful tale and still holds up well amongst all the other highly acclaimed live action Disney movies. Isn't it funny when you think back at the 90s, this one was hugely popular. If you put this out today, I don't know. But I remember this one certainly for the Sega Mega Drive game, but I think it was because of Robin Williams that I remember it so well. I mean, like, come on, think of all those one-liners. Just an interesting fact for you guys, when he was improvising, he did that so much that the script was eventually rejected for a Best Adapted Screenplay for the Academy Awards. But either case, Disney started something different with this movie. They started doing or introducing CGI, 3D moving backgrounds, and then through that they developed a technique called deep canvas, later used in Tarzan. But this movie started off a couple of cool things, but I certainly like the story of rags to riches, and yeah, this is a new telling of the classic Aladdin story, which was essential to pass down to a new generation. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed Aladdin, and it certainly deserves to be on my top 10 list. Emperor's New Groove, absolutely amazing. God, this one, you forget it's even a Disney movie. It's probably because all that adult humor, because you got people like David Spade and Patrick Warburton, they're a great combination. you know them well from other stuff. You've also got people like John Goodman, he always lends his voice to these things. Eartha Kitt played Catwoman, lending her voice here. But you got the unforgettable relationship of Yzma and Kronk. They're fantastic. Lots of eccentric personalities, lots of one-liners, and abundance of energy throughout the whole thing. Even the kids in this one get some good one-liners. It's confidently drawn, snappy, lots of things to laugh at on multiple viewings. It doesn't follow the Disney formula, so I love how it's more like a cartoon than an animated feature. Emperor's New Groove, it's on the list. Here's a movie that I would have watched quite a lot growing up. The Disney version of Robin Hood is just delightful. It's animated quite well, and that's mainly because it was Don Bluth who led the animation team. It was the first movie after Walt Disney's death, so it was criticized quite heavily because it did rely on a lot of recycled characters, but once you get past that, there's a nice story here. There's a lot of funny moments, but as a kid when you're watching it, you're just laughing at some of the moments here, especially the rooster who's the narrator in this movie. He's funny. But Walt Disney had this idea basing it off well, it is based off a 12th century story called Reynard the Fox, but they had to tone it down because it was extremely violent. So there's where the original story came from, but they had to add a spin on it. So they took the story of Robin Hood and they were going to make it live action originally, so aren't we lucky we got an animated story back then. But anyway, it's on my top 10 list for several reasons. So here it is, Robin Hood on Decky's top 10. And yeah, it wouldn't be a Disney list without The Lion King, for goodness sake. It was very successful, sold over 10 million copies on VHS back in the day, and was the biggest selling soundtrack ever for an animated film. I didn't know that it was based off Kimba the White Lion. It's very similar to this story. It's loosely based off Hamlet as well. And that scene with the stampede, that took about 2.5 years to make. I didn't even know that. And originally Pocahontas was favoured to be the better of the two. They were both being produced at the same time.
There were numbers of people that wanted to get off the movie and get on to Pocahontas because that was perceived as that was going to be the great movie and we were the B team.
Sean Connery was meant to voice Mufasa. Lots of interesting facts about this movie, but it's incredibly epic on a huge scale. I love it. Yeah, Ratatouille is quite easily one of my favourite Disney films. Everything about it is so detailed, it's stunning with the colours and all the food as well. 270 pieces of food, to be exact, was computer generated, and everything about it is a great metaphor about prejudice. The rats can't be allowed in kitchens, yet Remy defies all the odds, the preconceived notions. So I love it. It allows you to establish its characters of Remy and Linguini. Their pairing here is quite funny to watch. But I just want to emphasize about how well this film deals with realism, as far as you can go with a story about talking rats. But I can't recommend it enough for all audiences. I think Ratatouille does a great job of balancing those realistic, harsh environments with the right amount of charm and craziness too. So there it is, Ratatouille on my top 10. And the number 2 spot comfortably goes to Monsters Inc. And that's because this film captures a lot of imaginations for both the adults and kids. This world of Monstropolis is so inventive. Like, this concept is given so much life and detail. It's an absolute incredible work of imagination. The textures just on Sully alone is incredible. The attention to detail is immense. Mike and Sully are a great double act voiced by Billy Crystal and John Goodman. The improv here is very enjoyable. And so this is a creation really aimed for younger audiences with some of the lighter tones and sensitive dialogue, but it lends itself for adults too with a lot of comedic timings. It's exciting, it's funny, it has its dramatic and emotional moments. Monsters Inc. is certainly worthy of being on anyone's top 10.
See the bear? Ooh, nice bear.
Everyone's got a favourite Disney movie. Mine just happens to be a Pixar one. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm not a huge fan of Disney. Exactly. They're the same thing. Toy Story is the world's first computer animated film, and it was also nominated for an Oscar for Best Screenplay. The story sparked my imagination, and I can remember being in awe of watching the toys just moving on screen, the way they generated enthusiasm. I just grew up thinking that, yeah, we're going to see a lot of cool shit in the future. It established good friendships, but just not in the way that we would normally see in a lot of things that we grew up with. We grew up with like the Muppets and a lot of cartoons, but their story arcs didn't really have what Toy Story did. They put their characters in dreaded situations, and it did really play out a great redemption story, and it does appeal to broad audiences, and it's very memorable for its soundtrack as well as its ensemble of characters. And Toy Story is easily my favourite Disney film, hands down. So that was my top 10, and guys, I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any thoughts, if you want to give us your top 10, all you have to do is comment below. I just thought you would enjoy a different kind of video this time. I've had an incredible holiday with a lot of experiences. I've learned more about the Disney brand itself. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoy more future RedAcre production content. Hit that subscribe button, and you can always hit the notification button to keep up to date with all the craziness.